Is that, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm going to give a pause real quick. Let Rooney finish out. Rhodes. Welcome back to another episode of 22 at the Lips. I'm your podcast host, Alexis, and this is the podcast from EMS providers to EMS providers and anybody and everybody in between. What we try to do is come on and talk about either education or what I typically used to do, and I'm starting to try to rein it back in now. People in my life that I've met throughout this job, whether it's through life circumstances or I just work around them or all of the above, as we will see today. But I have people on that have touched me in my heart and in my soul and have made a lasting impact on my life. And today, without further ado, we have Quinn Campbell, and I'm not gonna relay all the nicknames I've given you.
Well,
Um,
thank you.
as a symbol of respect. But Quinn, if you want to tell the people who you are, what you stand for, what you're about, what's your experience, the floor is yours.
Well, my name's Quinn Campbell, as Alexis has said, and I'm from Utah. I have worked in Utah my whole life. From I live in southern Utah. I've been doing EMS since 2005. So we're at 20 years now. Started out as a basic, did my intermediate, and then went right into medic school. And I had my medic a year and a half after I had my basic. So I did most of my time. I've done most of these years as a paramedic. I have a degree in education. Taught school for a little while at troubled youth centers for young women ages 12 to 18. And I also taught at another school for troubled youth for young men for a little while. But paramedics has been my passion. Being out in the field has been my passion for many years since I've been in it for 20 years now.
So, what before we get started, what made you did you always stay drawn to the paramedic side, or like what's your background in education? Was that just kind of like a see what else is out there? What's the setup with that?
That was good question. I went to school to play college football, and throughout that time, I thought I wanted to become a chiropractor. Started into the pre med classes, struggled with them, didn't understand why I was struggling with them, what was going on. Later found out I have ADHD. I've had ADHD my whole life, but my parents didn't really tell me about it. And then I got diagnosed with it in college. And so testing was really hard for me. So I dropped out of going to be a chiropractor then, but because I was playing college football, I needed a degree or wanted to end school with a degree. And so I tried to do veterinarian school or veterinarian classes, pre med classes again. Didn't do so hot. So then I went into, um, I wanted to be a firefighter, paramedic, and that's when I started down that path. So,
So I think that's kind of one of the many things that we share is just that not so typical pathway to get into this job. And I think it's super cool.
oh yeah, I didn't. So then I was going down the paramedic firefighting stuff, but I still did, there wasn't a degree of that at that time. So I had to get a degree. So I got a degree in teaching. I can be a physical educator. I can teach PE in high school, or I can teach Spanish because I have a Spanish minor as well. So yeah, very atypical. Not what most everybody else did, right?
Right. Um, Before we get more into anything, Quinn, I do have three rapid fire questions that you were not prepared for, and I want to go ahead and ask them to get the listeners to get to know you a little bit more. And I know I already have the answers in my head of what you're probably going to say, but for everybody else that doesn't live in the upstairs cranium, you ready?
Yes, ready.
Cool. Number one, what's your favorite color?
Red or black?
if you had to pick one?
Probably red.
Is there a reason, or you just like the color?
Just like the color. Just really like the. It's actually for football teams. It's for the San Francisco 49ers. Big
I
49ers fan.
figured.
Yep. And red.
I knew it was gonna be something with football.
Yeah.
A superpower you always wanted.
A superpower I always wanted. Oh, I would say like being like the Incredible Hulk, but I already kind of am like that or have been like that before. So let's say to fly. Is that different than what you thought?
I figured it was gonna be super strength. I'm having a very vivid flashback of one time whenever you had to firefighter carry me on your back.
Yeah.
All I
Yeah.
can think is the Hulk now.
That wasn't just one time. I think that was a couple times. But we won't talk about that, right? Uh,
Laugh out loud. What is a pet peeve you
yes.
have?
A pet peeve I have. I don't know. Um, I like to eat my breakfast in my bed. I don't know why. I'm not sure why it is. I just breakfast I like to have in bed.
Is that breakfast like, any type of breakfast? Like, are we talking like a piece of toast and an egg, or like, are we talking the 5 course meal, the good kind of Waffle House breakfast?
No, not the Waffle House breakfast because I don't do a lot of Waffle House breakfast. You know this from living with me or living in our home that I don't eat a lot of waffles. I That's like an eggs and toast kind of breakfast with my monster in the morning, and I would prefer having that every morning in bed if I could.
I respect it. I can appreciate eating a snack in bed. I just eating in bed is just not, I don't know, it makes me feel weird. Makes me
Yeah,
feel like the sheets are contaminated.
yeah. That's if you're sloppy and spill it everywhere. Come on.
Well, have you met me? No.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, I spill it all the way. All I spill it a lot too, and I just put towels down so I don't spill it everywhere.
Right.
You know.
Um, okay, so diving back into who you are, what you're about. Tell me how long you've been a supervisor, because anybody that doesn't know, that's how I met Quinn. It was the job I was working at. A lot of life events went down. I needed somewhere to be, and Quinn graciously offered him his house with his family, and I literally lived in his basement. But Quinn, how long have you been a supervisor?
I started being a supervisor in 2013. I was working for the current agency I work for right now as just a paramedic. Most of our calls were interfacility stuff. And in 2013, we took over 911 in our local area in St. George, Utah. And that's when I became a supervisor.
Was the Okay, so some people join the supervisor rank because it's like an increase in pay. Some people do it because they want to actually like make an impact. What was your driving motivating factor?
I think I think it was two-sided. I guess I couldn't always say that I can't always say it wasn't because of pay, but the pay difference between me working as a field medic and the pay as a supervisor was not that much. So I did it because I wanted to be able to help the employees understand what we wanted them to do and what was the goal and objective. With us being starting out 911 service, we were an agency that took over from another agency, and I watched that takeover and was part of it in a sense that I with some of the medics that we hired, I didn't want them to come in and try and bring in their old ways. I wanted a new look, something to be different than what they have been used to doing while they work down here for the other agency.
And I think that's super commendable because, like, I mean, as you know, in the field, there's always somebody complaining about something, and there's always something to complain about. I mean, that's part of this job. But like, you have your people that just complain just to complain. And then you have your people that hear the complaints, they have the complaint, and they actually do something about it. And I feel like that's kind of been, like you just said, like your leadership style is that there are things that can change. So let's strive to change the things to make it better for everybody else.
Yeah, very much so. I think I'm a big proponent of leading by example, having people, if you want to have a problem, if you think the issue, then let's figure out the resolution for it and let's have you lead by example, because the more people you can lead by example, the better chance you have of getting buy-in from everyone.
It's also very frustrating because, as I was, if you're an employee who just wants to go and gripe and complain about something, you have something to say about it and you want to change it in the worst possible way of doing something embarrassing, you have a voice of reason that says, "Hey, let's not do that. Let's calm down. Our emotions are really heightened. Let's
Yeah.
breathe."
Yeah. Well, that the only reason for that, Alexis, is because I've had to learn from example myself. You know, sometimes we get, as a field employee or somebody that doesn't know, have all the information, we get stressors from our everyday life. Whether it's money, whether it's friends, whether it's dating, whether it's wife, husband, we have stressors from everything. And those bleed into our jobs. And when I was a field medic in a different area, um, my wife and I just had our twins, and she stopped working. It was our first kids, and so I'm working 5 jobs, and paramedics was my second job. So it wasn't my main job, and my main job required me to be there for teaching these students, teaching school and everything. And so I missed a training on how to do electronic charting, and they took me off the roster for my next 3 or 4 shifts and said I couldn't go work as a paramedic at night until I had those shifts covered. Well, they didn't tell me this until my buddy comes and says, "Hey, did you take vacation? You've lost 4 of your shifts." And this was during a paramedic um, meeting that we had every month. I'm like, "No, I didn't drop my shifts." And I got so mad, I stood up and I hit the bookshelf as hard as I could. Well, my supervisor at the time claimed he had 911 on speed dial as I went to go try and talk to the director. So let me tell you, I can understand like the voice of reason, like, "Hey, calm down, let's approach it a different way," is because I've experienced it. I've done that. I've been the not so level headed person and had to work through that. And it's not a fun time. Not a fun time at all.
It's not, especially whenever you're stubborn and you have a lot of things to say about something and you're opinionated and you think everybody needs to hear it at that exact moment. But
Right.
we live and we learn.
Yeah.
Um,
Very much so.
what is it like babysitting grown adults? Because one of the biggest reasons you'll never catch me as a supervisor, and I have mad respect for anybody who does because I could not. But it's, oh my gosh, it's hearing the things that people are complaining about and going to the supervisor about that there's no reason. There what
Yeah.
oh man. I
We get to include you in this thought.
okay, you know what? You know what?
Well, there's this one time. No, no, I wouldn't do that. Um, that is a great question, Alexis. That's a very tough question to ask, because for years for years I thought, "Hey, I'm trying to help these guys understand, and maybe they're struggling with certain stuff, and giving them the benefit of the doubt." But now, doing it for as long as I have, there's days I'd rather babysit my kids because they listen a heck of a lot better, or a hell of a lot better, than the employees that I have to be supervisor over. So it can be the most frustrating thing, but it also can be the most rewarding thing at the same time. Um, for example, if I was not your supervisor, I don't think we would be as good of friends and family that you and I are.
Yeah. No, 100%. And that's, oh my gosh, when I was still in Utah and it was the latter half of me being in Utah and everything that was going down and all of that, um, my ex-husband. So when all that was going down, um, if I wouldn't have had you guys, if I wouldn't have had you in my corner and in my support team, man, I mean, I wouldn't be here, Quinn.
Yeah.
And that's what, like, I always clown, not really clown, but like I always make jokes about, like, oh, supervisor's this, supervisor's that, blah blah blah. Don't ask me to come in for overtime. I'll send you a, you know, error 404 page not found text. But like seriously though, it makes such a difference, especially in this job, like in the work field in general. To have a good supervisor, it means a lot. But whenever you have it in this field, it can mean the world of a difference. And that's coming from somebody who, we would have our little picnics on shift. I would bring you little white cheddar popcorn.
Yeah.
A
Always
what drink was it?
Mountain Dew, Diet Mountain Dew.
Diet Mountain Dew, and I would probably bring in whatever choice of snack was that week. I don't know. And to just have that free ability to just sit in an office, hash out all my feelings, hash out a lot of anger and frustration really means a lot. And I know that, like, if you do that for me, you do that for God knows how many other people because that's who you are. But having people like you in life makes a difference, Quinn.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I
Ew,
would have
much
to echo
appreciated.
that same statement to you, having you, I remember the first day you're a new hire orientation. And the way I started talking to you was because I wanted to learn about crawfish boils. And you from being from Louisiana, I wanted you to teach me and cook some so we could learn. But then fancy that, I'd make you some jambalaya, and it's some of the best jambalaya you've ever had. And I'm a Utah boy that's never been to the South. I've been to the South, but never lived in the South or made jambalaya, and I make a pretty damn good jambalaya.
It is one of the best, and I don't know how you did it. You also chose the wrong person because we both know I don't cook. I burnt quesadillas one time. I am not the one.
No, you burn. You do cook. You just take it to the burnt stage.
I just want to make sure it's cooked thoroughly.
Yeah, exactly. On something that's already pre-cooked.
Look, salmonella doesn't look
Uh,
good on anybody.
yeah.
Um, so in your experience as a supervisor, especially, and then just the group together, all your experience, you've probably run a heck of a lot of calls, my guy. What
Yeah.
is, if you had to think about one that was either super funny or like made a lasting impression on you, what you got? Tell me about a call.
Oh, I've had multitude of them that have made a very big impression, but probably the one that comes to mind the most to me is one that happened not but this last year. Um, Went on a call of a kid that had a seizure, and I have to be careful because it is so close that I don't want to violate HIPAA, but
Right.
young man that had a seizure and families panicking. I'm responding with this crew. I'm responding with a paramedic that has similar years of experience as I do, but when we get there, he's not knowing how to deal with this kid. And um, come to find out, this kid's autistic. He's 19, and talking with mom and the daughter, they talk about how he doesn't like men. He hates men because dad's not in their life, and he has his mom and three sisters that have been taking care of him for 19 years. And luckily, because of my experience with autism and things like that, I was able to talk the one paramedic that was the lead on the call as I'm sitting back being the supervisor and say, hey, we need to do this. Turn off your alarms off your monitor, turn off the lights, get your blood pressure and then be done. Don't have everything else dinging in the background. Let's get all the firefighters out. And By the end of the call, I had the kid give me a hug when I went to say bye to him at the hospital. And the mom starts crying to me and saying, he doesn't hug men. And for somebody that's a complete stranger, she's like, she was in shock that he would hug me because I spent the time to get to know him and try and understand him, even though he's nonverbal. He would verbalize a few things, but it was muffled. But I spent the time just to get to know him, and he felt that connection and wanted to give me a hug at the end. That right there is more rewarding than the 19 other years I've had in EMS.
No, 100%. And that,
Yeah,
I would rather a call like that over, I don't know, some kind of fantastic last minute save for whatever. I don't know. Something like that, just because that, uh, things like that, I don't know.
yeah,
They don't teach you that in school, and it's not something you necessarily trained for, but to have that interaction and have that moment, that's huge.
yeah, very big. Well, and it's kind of funny. So the crew members that were on it with me kept wanting to put the blood pressure cuff on him on the way to the hospital. I'm like, no, leave him alone. We got it on him the one time. We got a pulse on him. After that, he's stable. He's talking to us. He's having a good time. He's sensory overload. Don't keep trying to stimulate him. All you're going to do is get him mad. And the it's not because he was trying to do anything wrong. The paramedic was trying to follow what the protocol was, but couldn't see the individual as what the kid needed. And that's really sad.
I think that's also going back to looking at like, oh, well, I need these 2 vital signs for my report. Your report will be fine as long as you get the kid there and he's stable and mom understands everything that's going on, especially please have a back seat. Like,
Oh
just
yeah.
hang out on the
Leave
side of the
him
road. We'll pick you up after.
right. Leave him alone. If you can't leave him alone, go sit up front and let's let him play his music, his favorite music he wants to play on his phone, and dance up and down in his chair. And if that's what makes him happy, then that's great because now I don't have to fight with him. And he's enjoying
Exactly.
this.
Because us against him, there's only one of us that are going to win, and it's not going to be us.
No, it's not going to be us at all. And we've all been in those with those patients that we fight, and we're like, why in the world are we fighting you? You
Yeah.
leave our ambulance. You can go do whatever you want to do. But because we don't ever win.
No. I almost
So,
kicked a guy out a couple of months ago. I kind of did, but then I locked him in. Anyways, that's not the
yeah.
point. Um, what would you say is one of the most valuable lessons you've learned from this career thus far?
Picnics.
I love picnics.
Taking the time to realize and let the people you work with know that you care. Whether your partner, whether you're a supervisor, whether you're a director, whether you're a crew from another rig, if there's a minute you have to let people know that you care, we need to know that. We deal with a lot of crap. We deal with a lot of patients that are crap, that they are dealing with the worst of their life. They're stressed out. We're stressed out. We got stuff going on at home. We got things going on in our lives. And we're dealing with these traumatic events that bind to us, that never leave us. And a lot of the times we don't dare share them because we don't want to feel or look weak to our partners or our supervisors. Oh yeah, we're fine, we're good. I can handle this. No, it's okay if you can't. It is 100% okay to say, "Hey, I can't handle this. I'm struggling." And if you have somebody there for a second that can look at you and say, "Alexis, are you okay?" That is the number one thing that matters.
I think it's such a weird predicament and of providers in this field who for whatever reason, we think we have to be the toughest person in the room because I guess we are that for so many patients and so many people's vulnerable moments of their lives, but like nobody asks us to be these brick walls. Nobody requires that of us. I mean, you need to hold it together and like be able to do your job and process your emotions, but at the same time, nobody expects you to be able to be an iron superwoman or superman or anything like that, you know?
Right. Yeah. Well, and we are too afraid to talk about it, but I think as time has gone on over the past 20 years. So when I started in 2005, um, you didn't hear a lot about mental health. You didn't hear a lot of conversations about mental health. He said, yeah, you got to talk about calls. And so for me, from like 2005 until probably 2012, I thought I was invincible. Actually, it was 28 when I had 2008, when I had my twin boys, was when I found out I wasn't invincible on calls anymore. They actually stuck, right? But that early years, they didn't worry about mental health. And now you see more and more that we need to worry about mental health. This stuff that we deal with, that we see on a daily basis, the dead bodies, the injuries, the wounds, the stuff that the accidents that we see people walk away from, and the accidents that we don't see people walk away from, we're not meant to see that.
Yeah.
Our minds aren't meant to see that. And especially with A personalities that we are, that we're always critiquing what we do. You tell me that doesn't replay in your head over and over again. And you tell me, find me one provider that doesn't replay a call, and I'll tell you he's lying,
Yeah.
because we all do. And that's the stuff that binds to us, and it changes who we are as people.
And I think also, as we've started to realize and look around and say, hey, we're losing too many people in our field, we're losing too many people left and right to things that we could just talk about or things that we can actually, like you said, reach out to each other for. I mean, even though like the rates, they're not necessarily going down, but it doesn't feel, I don't know, maybe it's just not as close to home for me anymore. But like I feel like we're making a positive impact in our field and we're making a positive impact to everyone around us. But at the same time, one is too many. Even
Right.
just one is too many.
Oh, 100%. I think we are making a difference. And I think it's just the awareness, and actually making a place where people can talk about it, whether it's with your partners or whether it's sitting down with your supervisors or whether it's having a picnic. Alexis, I look back at the day that you and I started doing picnics, and I wish that I would have started that back in 2013 with other employees and just had little times to talk with them and say, hey, how's life going? What's going on outside of work? I know what's going on at work because I see all the calls. What's going on at home? What's going on? Are you dating anybody? How's the family? How are the kids growing up? What are you guys doing for fun?
Yeah,
And we have to do that. I think we get too stuck in the thought that no, we got to work, we got to be this strong superhuman. We got to be Supergirl or Superman, and it's like, no, you don't. The stuff we deal with, we shouldn't be seeing. Yeah, we joke about it. We make some very off the wall jokes, stuff we shouldn't be joking about, stuff we probably should be in HR's office 90% of the time. But that's how we cope with it, because we don't want to be serious, because everything else we deal with is serious. You
absolutely.
know?
And I don't know. I have such a love-hate relationship with dark humor because like, it's that coping mechanism and it makes me feel better, but also I just know it's rotting away another brain cell and I can't get it
Yeah.
back.
No, no, not at all. Well, when you go on a call, or when you have a call for years and you come back and you go on let's say a car wreck, and you see the worst road rash, and then we go back to the station and it's time for dinner or time for lunch, and we don't hesitate eating whatever we're eating, whether it's a sandwich or a steak dinner, and we're
Mhm.
like, this kind of looks like what? Yep, pretty close to what we saw today. I don't have a problem eating
A
it. That's
little bit
just
of
fine.
chili.
Yeah, yeah,
Chili.
yeah. Think of this. How many of those conversations you have with your family or your close friends that aren't in EMS, and you're at dinner and you're like, yeah, this is what we saw. And they're like, oh, I can't eat anymore. And you're like, well, why not? It's right here sitting in front of you. Why can't you eat it?
I should start dragging the plate towards me.
Yep.
That's why
Yep.
my mama don't ask me how work goes anymore. She learned real quick not to do that.
Yeah, very much so. Very, very much so. My parents are the same way. They don't ask too much because they don't want to know the ins and outs of it. So
If you can narrow down some words of wisdom, some advice, anything you'd want to pass on to the next generation of field providers, and myself included, what would it be? What would you tell people?
I would heed or warn everyone from the newness of the field. When we start our job, and I was the exact same way, we jump in guns ablazing. That adrenaline rush is the greatest feeling of the world. Having our first call, and whether it was a save or whether it was just a 26 alpha, a sick person that's been sick in their bedroom for weeks on end, and then finally called us. Those calls are great adrenaline rushes, and we love it. And we work our butt off, and we probably start the burnout time bomb that first week of work, because majority of us want to take in as much as we can as quick as we can. And I would heed everyone and say, if you're new, take it at a pace, go at your own speed. Don't do overtime the very first couple weeks or even the first 6 months. Don't overwork yourself, because if you've never had to deal with these calls, you're going to need some time to decompress. That will help you so you don't burn out. That will help you so you have a long lasting career in this field.
I feel like whenever people just start out, even if it's just a new agency and they've never, they've been working this for 10, 15 years, but they're just starting a new agency. I feel like there should be a limit on overtime you can take when you first start out, especially in your first month, just because it would keep those, I hate to say rookies, but like keep, because I feel like I still am, but keep the rookies from just jumping in and working those, that week straight or like those 2 weeks straight, just because like you're talking about, they're just so excited. For me, it was, I didn't want to be unprepared. So I was just picking up overtime to get the exposure so I would know what to do for the next time. And
Oh,
it,
yeah.
I think it's crucial what you're saying is that it just starts off your burnout ticking time bomb. That's all it does.
All we end up doing is lighting that fuse. We don't know how long that fuse is going to be or how long it will take. Like I said, for me, it was from 2005 to 2008, which was 3 years, but I was doing, 60, 70 hours or more. And I know there's a lot of providers out there that probably listen to you that do well over 60 or 70 hours a week. And all that does is start your fuse for your burnout, and you will burn out. And when it happens, it's going to be bad, and it's going to affect whether you stay in this career. How many employees or how many of our partners have we lost to burnout that have decided to go do other jobs that were phenomenal caregivers, phenomenal paramedics, from phenomenal AEMTs or basics, but they just couldn't handle the calls because they weren't processing them correctly.
Yeah. Too
You
many.
know, I
I mean, it's,
yeah,
yeah.
I think of my rough week in 2008 where I had 5 different pediatric deaths. That was, I can today still pull up their faces and see them. I know you had a call that was very similar in your first little bit of working, that we don't want to. We got to learn how to deal with those. I don't want to see those every night in my dreams.
No,
Um,
it gets really
it's
old
not
really
fun.
fast.
Yeah, yeah. So,
And it kind of goes back to just the general mental health. I mean, notwithstanding being able to talk about it, being able to have your people in your corner and your support system to talk to about it, but mental resiliency of this happened, I'm processing, I'm dealing with it. I have people in my corner, but this is also something I have to endure, and this is part of it now, but in a healthy coping mechanism.
Oh yeah, 100% healthy. And if that means going and talking with your partners who are on the call, go talk to them. Spend the time. We talk so much about HIPAA and EMTALA and all these rules that we have to follow, but go talk to your partners. Go talk to your coworkers and say, "Hey, I went on this rough call. I don't know what to do," or go enjoy the good calls. I think of one call. We were in a snowstorm, and now that you live in Michigan, you're going to understand what this is all about. My partner and I, we both played football together. We both went to medic school together, and we're in the snowstorm where a car had a head on with a motorhome. They were traveling the same direction on the freeway, but because of the ice, one of them flipped around and started going forward, and they had a head on collision. Well, we're talking about a foot of snow. We don't know if our ambulance can make it through the roundabout
Oh
to
man.
get on the other side of the freeway because they were on the northbound, we were heading southbound, and I'm the one driving, and my partner's like, okay, we got to hit this roundabout. I hit the roundabout so good that I did kind of a Fast and Furious maneuver that I'm going sideways until I got on the freeway, and we didn't get stuck. And my partner's yelling at me, "Now that's how you drive. That's how you drive an ambulance." And I'm like, "Oh hell yeah, that's how we drive an ambulance. At least we didn't get stuck in the 5 feet of snow in the median." And you got to have those times. You got to talk about that stuff too, because that's the fun part of the job.
Yeah.
That's the job that all of us love more than sitting in a classroom or sitting in an office. We're out in the streets having fun, living, just having the life that we wanted, being able to do whatever we wanted to do.
Absolutely. And it's those moments that you're not going to get in any other job. There's no other job where you can be able to do that.
Yeah.
Doing the things we do, just it makes such a difference. That's one of the things I've started doing is just focusing on not just focusing on the positives because that's so cliche, but just the general like, hey, it's not a bad job because we can do this. It's not a bad job because I got to, be in this situation today and like I actually got a laugh out of it. Or the moments whenever you actually make your patients smile makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Um,
A ton,
yeah, but
a ton.
is there anything else you want to pass on to the people, Quinn? Those are all the questions I got. But you are a spout of wisdom and knowledge, and I want you to share all of it because it's helped me so much in my career.
No, Alexis, you are that amazing as well. Um, no, I think I've said everything other than, just take the time to get to know your partners. Even though we've all had the partners. I had a partner tell me one time that I shouldn't drive an ambulance or shouldn't drive a rescue or this because I was too crazy. And, I accept that because I was crossing that double yellow quite a bit driving up the canyon. But I've driven the canyons my whole life, but I won't pass that opportunity that I had to be her partner. It makes me, it helps me be grateful for the good partners that I have. And so take the time to get to know your partner. They're doing this for the same reasons you are, or that we all are. They got into it because they like helping people. They may not do it in the same way that you and I do it. They may not tie their shoes the same way. They may not wear their uniform the same way, but get to know them because they're trying to be a helping person to the community, and that is commendable. And if you take the time, then you'll have more buy-in with yourself about them, and they'll have more buy-in to who you are.
Is this the part where I say thank you for your service?
No, not at all. Because I'll tell you the same thing right back.
Well, Quinn, I appreciate you coming on for an episode for this. Appreciate the light that you've shined in my career and in my life and for the next few years to go because you're not going anywhere when you're family.
No.
But I appreciate you and
Hold
I
on,
don't
hold
know.
on. We're not ending
Oh
this yet,
no.
quite yet.
Oh no. Wait, no.
We gotta. You did bring up something, but we didn't expand this because I do want to bring up. So why was I fireman carrying you a couple times? Do we need to talk about this on the podcast?
There was one time, I had an anaphylactic
Allergic
allergic
reactions.
reaction
Yeah.
at Quinn's house when I was living there, and um, I was very, very medicated by the time I left the ER, and IV Benadryl does something for me, man. And so I couldn't walk back into the house. So Gwen had to literally, it's Ring camera footage somewhere, throw me on his back.
Carry her in and throw her on her bed and tuck her in and make sure she was sleeping. And the crazy thing about this story is she wakes up, what, 5 hours later? I'm ready to go to work. And I'm like, oh, heck no, you're not going to work. You were just in the hospital 5 hours ago and you were given a whole lot of drugs to stop this anaphylactic reaction.
He can barely stand. I'm going to work.
No,
Life
those are
is
good
so
times.
funny.
Yeah. Well, and for all your viewers, she did get back mad at me because she had plenty of her anaphylactic reactions. And I had to call and tell her about an anaphylactic reaction I had down in Vegas. And
Mhm.
she just laughed the whole time as I'm trying to tell her that one of my friends gave me some sunflower seeds, which I'm highly allergic to. And we're going to a concert. And I'm trying to go to this concert. And I literally take as much over the counter Benadryl as you can, but still try and stay functionable for the concert, the comedian. And all she did was laugh at me. So she got back at me for that tenfold.
And it felt great. So
I love it.
love you lots, Quinn. See, I'm
Love
still
you
not using
too.
your nicknames. But um well, Quinn, I appreciate you. If anybody wants more info on Quinn, more info on where to get his vast positivity and wisdom, hit me up. I'll let you know. But he is a well kept secret I keep near and dear to my heart. But Quinn, if that's all you got, that's all I got. I'm tired of hearing my dog whining in the background. And
Go give
as
her love.
I'm gonna give her something. My right hook.
You're going to break your hand if you give her a right hook. She's got a bigger head than you.
Somebody said she had a cinder block head, and I can't get that out of my head.
Uh,
But that's all I got. And as I end every single episode,
The 22 at the Lips podcast is designed to support, not replace, the relationship that exists between a practitioner and his or her medical director. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the host, guest, and not necessarily of Master Medics. The information provided during this podcast is intended for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for your approved protocols.